Hello and welcome to the History Makers Leadership Podcast. My name is Daniel, and Norval and I are excited to share with you just some recent thoughts and things that we've read and looked at. But before we get started, I want to invite you, if this is helpful, useful, if these conversations are fruitful for you, I just ask that you would like, share, subscribe, do some of those different things. We want to get this resource into the hands of faithful men and women like yourself who are making a difference for the kingdom. Norval, we were looking at and kind of discussing just some of the kind of ongoing trends in the church, right? There remains in the church, Barna had a study, the state of the church. There remains a high level of a desire for what are often referred to as like social justice themed work, caring for widows and orphans, right? Kind of pure and undefiled religion would be maybe one kind of way of framing it. But for the church to be active in some of those spaces. We also see trends that Gen Z, the next generation are zealous and excited about some of the things in the church. We also hear that if you're going to be a church in the future, you've got to be a church that's making an impact in your community, because that's how people are going to find you. And yet we find time and time again that there is this kind of disconnect between the desire for those outputs and the internalization that is our responsibility as individual believers. For the Christian leader today that's trying to juggle some of these things, right? They understand that that's what people are yearning for and desiring their church to be, but they themselves can sometimes struggle to engage as evangelists or to engage as disciple makers. Gosh, that's a hard place for leaders today, man.
I believe the church is at a crossroads, if you want, at a moment in time where we have this amazing opportunity and to do this, to transform the church. I like it that we keep going back to 2020 and COVID, but COVID forced a reset in many ways. And a lot of people realized there are different ways of being a church. And also realized there were some things that we were doing that were just not necessarily working anymore.
Yeah.
And you talked about the social justice and the fact that people understand what needs to be done, but they're less prepared or even less willing to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about that off camera a little bit, about the model of church that was given to us. Let's say that.
Sure.
Okay. Even my generation. If you talk about generations, I'm a baby boomer. Mm-hmm. You're a straight up millennial.
Straight in the middle, man.
Yeah, and so we were given a church that was. It's terrible that we say it like that, but it's a consumer model of Christianity.
Sure.
We outsourced the mission, and we became consumers of the faith. So we would come, sit down, receive, and then go home, and hopefully live a better life because of what we received. That is so far from the Christianity that Jesus, or the church that Jesus started.
Yeah. I look at that and I can't help but reflect it's so much less than the fullness that Christ desires for his people. I heard one pastor say it this way. He said, you could follow all the teachings of Jesus and your life would generally be better and never have actually believed in the message that he delivered or your part in sharing that message with others. And so, as I reflect on that, I think the heart and the intent was in a good spot, right? I mean, we teach that effective Christian leaders need to be culturally relevant in the way that they reach out, in the way that they serve their communities, the larger body of Christ, in the way that they go about that message and work. And yet, as we teach culturally relevant evangelism, we help them understand that the methodology adapts, the message remains consistent and clear. There is unchanging truth in the midst of our very changing world. And I think sometimes we can feel that tension, right? We seek to be so culturally relevant, or another way maybe to put that would be attractional, that we forget that we're calling people to join in with a very clear mission to make Christ known, and the blessing that brings. See, I believe that there's a direct connection between making Christ known and seeing that transformational, social justice outcome that so many people long to see in communities. Believers and unbelievers can see pain, sorrow, suffering, and long to see that transformed, long to see that redeemed and made new. And the gospel is the hope.
And the message of the gospel and the invitation of the gospel is not only to be saved.
That's right.
It's not only to just have yourself transformed.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be where we've missed the mark is we made that incomplete invitation, because there's the invitation is also to join in the mission.
That's right.
So the invitation is to come and be saved, come and be transformed, and then become an agent of transformation.
There you go.
For others. And fortunately, throughout history, there's always been people and churches and movements and that focus on that. It's not that the entire church was missing the point. So the good news is that we see now a generation that is not satisfied to be in the sidelines at all.
Amen.
Wants to be part of the game.
That's right.
That's what we hear about Gen Z and I guess even millennials to a certain point. Where they value authenticity.
Yes. And
they realize they want to be part of the solution.
I think that's the key phrase as I reflect on just conversations among my peers, right? And I was asked recently, hey, how do we find that next generation of leaders, those next generation leaders in our own churches, our own congregations? And I think among the next generation is a deep longing and yearning for that authenticity, for that sincerity of faith that really is the marriage of words and actions, where I'm talking about this transformational hope that's found in Jesus on Sunday, and on Monday, I'm still talking about it because it's still transformational. It is still the source of hope. And in any conversation that I'm having, it is a fundamental part of it, right? I can't tell about my life without telling about Christ in my life. And I think that's something that this next generation is really longing for, is for that authenticity, sincerity, and consistency of faith, belief, attitude, action, all married together. And there is, with that longing, that yearning for authenticity and sincerity, a deep distrust of institutions, a deep distrust of hypocrisy, a deep distrust of facade. And so it requires more than the senior pastor of a church living it out for that next generation to look and go, oh no, these people are real. Right? Not just that one person, but this is a group of people that are sincere in this faith, sincere and authentic in their followership of Jesus. And I see that manifest in the way that they interact in the community, in the way that they, care for the hurting, the lowly, and that, gosh, isn't that a compelling, view back to really the church in Acts, right? Like there was deep community and authenticity and action that every member in the body was partaking in.
Yes. And we see a lot of signs of it. And Daniel, as you were talking, I felt the curiosity to ask you, because you represent a beautiful change that is happening in the church today. That that emphasizes authenticity, communion, and but is a high commitment kind of involvement. And so I want to ask you two questions, and I want you to answer, because it's going to be very practical and very day to day. Talk to me about your espresso machine.
Okay.
So we're both coffee buffs.
Huge coffee nerds.
Actually, I bought my espresso machine just like yours because I enjoyed the coffee from your machine. So I went and saved and hacked up points on my credit card.
There you go.
And went and got me one.
There you go.
But tell me, why do you have a fancy espresso machine in your home?
Well, it was a decision my wife and I made. We enjoy good coffee, and we have fun drinking that, and it's something we share and enjoy together. But also, we recognized that, hey, this would be a real key opportunity to reach the next generation, right? It's, how many meetings, kind of classic American here, how many meetings do I have over coffee? Well, what if those coffees were being held in my home? And suddenly I was able to invite people into a slightly more intimate context wherein we could talk, kind of real life stuff and move past, surface level professionalism, to deeper things. And so we did. We bought that coffee machine, and we kind of laughed because, it was not inexpensive, but yet it feels like it's been one of the more meaningful ministry investments that my family has made, because we're able to invite people into our home to sit around, have coffee, share a meal, and have those conversations take place in a context where they can see there is no facade here. There is no play act. I'm not on. This is me. There is no on and off Daniel. I'm just trying to be Daniel. And my wife just trying to be Casey. And so we have seen that investment bear lots of kingdom fruit as we love on folks.
Well, see, that's where the authenticity and a little bit of the community comes in. And so my second question, Daniel, is about your church. Mm-hmm. I know you pastor a church, right? And where is your church?
Great question, Norval. So, we've actually had my senior pastor, Tommy Adams, on this podcast before, but my church meets in my home. We've got about 26 that come to my home every Sunday for us to sit, for us to gather, out of the fundamental belief that deep discipleship happens in the context of deep relationship. More than 15 minutes, we want to have deep relationship that allows for genuine confrontation when that's needed, but also encouragement when that's deeply needed. And then to walk with people over a lifetime. When I read, I love Christian biography. When I read Christian biography, I read of these great leaders, these great men and women of faith of old. They had a consistent view that ministry was for a longer period of time. And I think that longevity in faithfulness is something that again, my generation longs for, to see, hey, did you lead for 50 or 60 years with integrity and consistency? Man, how? What does that look like? There's so many, I heard a pastor one time say, I look at my bookshelf and all the titles, all of the names written on there. And he said, I can't help but look and go, there's the moral failure, there's the next collapse, and just kind of see all of those things. And I'm not saying that to disparage the church, but rather to call the church to awareness, to say, man, that longevity is born out of a context of deep relationships, open accountability, fellowship that is close, not far. And so to put it really simply, yeah, the church meets in my house, and if my wife and I are having an argument, it's pretty clear. You can't hide that when it's in the house, right? And so I can have a brother or a sister who kind of says, hey, how are you? How are things really? Not surface, like how are we really? And then to be able to navigate that together. And so that's some of why we do that. And I'm not saying that's, and I don't mean to imply that's the only method. But I reflect on what I see in the global church. And I think if my church can only be defined because of the incredible wealth that the nation I happen to have been born in affords it, then I really want to make sure that I don't lose sight of essential elements of my church. There's going to be different cultural elements to every part of the body, and that's good. That's beautiful. I think that's the praise and glory of God. But I don't want to find myself missing out on core essential elements of the body. And I think those smaller group contexts are really where that transformation is taking place.
Well, yeah, the reason I asked and is because now, if your church was the only one, was like a phenomenon, it'd be great. We'd go there and do a case study, write a paper or something like that. But it isn't.
Yeah.
It's by no means a rarity anymore in the world. And honestly, there are parts of the world where you and I serve that we cannot explicitly mention in a public setting like this, like a conversation we were having just this morning about working in a part of the world where Christianity is illegal, persecuted, and with violence, where being a Christian carries a severe risk.
That's right.
And in places like that, churches look much more like your church than the mega church around the corner with, the stage lights and the smoke machine and 20-somethings playing reverend guitars.
There you go.
That's an inside joke for those who appreciate instruments.
And Norval, this is, this kind of, for me, comes back to some other conversations we've had. And again, I'm not, if you are the church that's blessed with all those things, praise God, like use that for his glory. Like I'm just asking the question, what can I learn from the global church? And how can I come with an attitude of humility to those brothers and sisters who have a sincere faith and say, hey, teach me some things here. And again, so many of them have a church context that does very much look like this, and their faith looks very real and is very authentic and connects a very real faith with real tangible fruit of that faith. And again, with James, I say, like, with the reformers, I say we are justified by grace alone, and with James, I say, show me your faith through your works, right? Like there's this marriage that I want to hold even in my own thinking. But as I look at those elements of the body of Christ that are persecuted, that are oppressed, yet they continue in the mission of God with great conviction and zeal and joy. How? Well, what is the context of that kind of a gathering? Because that's the kind of transformational gathering I want to be a part of every week, because I need that. I need that encouragement. I need that kind of strengthening in my own faith. And when I look at those brothers and sisters and see that, I'm deeply moved at how God bears that fruit.
And one word that we haven't brought up here that is so present in these movements, and as a side note, what's interesting is what we are essentially saying that the church in the persecuted world, the church in the other side of the world, needs to teach us
they have
how to do
for
church, needed to help us do church better.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it all boils down to relationships and to a word that I love and we talk a lot about is discipleship, or disciple making, which is to help somebody. Discipleship or disciple making is, I love John Mark Comer's way he puts it. He says, apprentice to Jesus.
That's right.
So discipleship is being an apprentice to Jesus and helping somebody else be an apprentice to Jesus together with me in community. Like you said, it happens better around coffee, if you're like coffee.
Yeah. Around
tea, if you like tea.
Yeah.
If you're in Japan, it might be over a bowl of ramen.
If you're in parts of Central Asia, it may be in a sauna.
Yes, that's true. But it's being together and helping shape character.
Yeah.
Help the Holy Spirit help shape my character as I relate to somebody who helps me apprentice.
That's right.
And then I help somebody else apprentice.
Well, and one of the things here at Norval that I love trying to help people kind of see, I think that discipleship to Jesus, apprenticeship to Jesus, will bring as a fruit leadership like Jesus, right? If leadership is influence, and we all have influence in the lives of other people, then there is some degree to which each of us has leadership. We have influence in the lives of some sphere of influence around us. And we want to disciple and be discipled, apprentice and be apprenticed in such a way that it begins to reflect the same forms of leadership that Christ has. And that's why at ILI, we do train and equip in 8 core values, fundamental biblical principles that guide and direct Christian leadership to be Christ-like in character, such that it's not, a leadership curriculum or experience or intensive that's devoid of deep discipleship principles, values, and assets, because it is this kind of continuation in delineation, because as I look more like Jesus, I'll begin to lead in ways that are similar to him, and I'll begin to kind of steward the influence I've been entrusted to glorify God and to accomplish the kingdom advancing work that he has uniquely called me to.
We have been called, people have looked at our material and said, this is discipleship.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a discipleship or an apprenticeship to Jesus that points towards influence.
That's right.
And yes, we train leaders, but we are not selecting the top leaders. We're not going for pastors or company leaders or political leaders. We believe the mother who influences her 3 kids, and in an American context, influence 5 or 6 other kids that get in the van and they go to soccer practice or baseball or
Sure.
or gymnastics if they're girls, or swimming, but who now is influencing not only her kids but her kids' peers or playmates or something like that. That's leadership.
Yeah.
And that needs to be done with core values to develop character in these however many people that I influence as a person, as a mother, as a father, or as a business, or as a coworker, anywhere, and building the kingdom through this chain of people apprenticing and learning how to live, how to imitate Jesus, how to lead like Jesus, how to influence others the way he did.
Well, I think all of this ties back together. The church of the future needs to be a church where the whole body is engaged in the mission, because the outsider, the unbeliever, is going to be looking, saying, is this just a program of you, or is it a mission and view for the whole people? Is this a transformational message that you're peddling, or is this something that these people are proclaiming about themselves? This was transformational. And that's why I believe God is calling me to commit my life to equipping leaders, because it is the equipping of these leaders to discover their own given God-given vision, mission, and calling that will help the entire body to engage in the mission of God, the advancement of the kingdom, the message of Christ, his death, burial, resurrection, the teachings of Christ, so that the whole world would hear and know, and then receive in that process of reconciliation that Christ is ultimately making between the broken world and himself and God the Father, all of that coming together as individual members of the body are able to see, understand, and fulfill their God-given vision and mission. And that's why equipping leaders is really fundamental to the future of the church, because the future church must be a church where it's not the mission of a few who are in professional ministry, but a mission of the entire people called out according to his purpose.
Well, essentially, what we're saying is that the 21st century church needs to look like the first century church if it's going to succeed.
Amen.
And not only that, I'm thinking that because the first century church was similar to the 21st century church in some places, in that it was persecuted. The first and second, and even the first and second century church was persecuted, was violently attacked,
Yeah.
and yet it responded with love and care.
Amen.
And we would need a whole series of episodes just to describe the history of the church in the first couple centuries, where the Christians, like you said, helped widows and orphans and refugees and sick people, and provided that, had that social involvement, that social responsibility that didn't come out of some ideology, just came out of being like Jesus.
Well, and it wasn't transactional in the same way we can often see transactional relationships in the West. It was a sincere, love. Unstrings attached. Hey, I'm not doing this so that you'll hear this gospel message, right? I'm not serving you this meal, and in exchange, you are going to now listen to my sermon. It was, hey, I'm doing this, and I'm building a relationship with you. And as I build that relationship with you, I will earn the privilege to share that. And I'm not going to not share it. I'm not going to withhold it, because I can't be in a relationship with you without sharing this, because it's part of who I am. It was a transformational church, and I think that's why we saw such transformational things happening. Now, I want to kind of caveat, all of that is in, through, and with the power of God in their midst, right? The Holy Spirit's active presence in them and through them. And so I do think that in our world today, we have to continue to live relationally with the Spirit of God and with the people that God places around us, so that we can begin to see that transformation work through us in our community.
Absolutely. And it is possible. And it's great to see it happening in so many places.
Amen.
And as an organization and as a movement, to be a part of it.
Yeah, man, yeah.
That's something that we said in another episode, that we get the privilege of walking with these people that are really making a transformational difference in their communities, where revival is happening, where the power, the like you said, the Spirit of God is moving.
Amen.
Where people are being healed, people are being transformed, but also people are learning how to live like Jesus. And as it's inevitable, if you learn how to live like Jesus, you learn how to help others live like Jesus as well. Right. Those things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust them to faithful men and women who will then also teach others. That's what Paul said to Timothy.
That's right.
His disciple and friend.
Mm-hmm. His son in the faith. Well, Norval, what an incredible encouragement. Thanks for helping to kind of think through this a little with us. I think the future of the church is bright because the Son himself is the head of it. And praise God, he is risen and he is reigning on high. And listen, if you're out there in the world, I just want to encourage you. God is active and at work. Man, we have seen the church across Latin America come alive in some incredible ways, taking hold of the vision and mission of God. We've seen how across the persecuted and unreached parts of the church, his people are alive and seeking him out and working to proclaim the name of Christ, even in the midst of difficult circumstances. Those kind of courageous, bold leaders are making a difference. Wherever you are in the world, just know God is at work in and around you. And we certainly pray that this will be an encouragement to you and also a challenge as you seek to lead into the next generation.